Okay, let's move on to the next question that I got for you guys. So obviously, we have 3 of you guys here who are full of teaching experience, right? We have, I think, Danny, you've been teaching on Cafe Talk for over 6 years now. I think Chris, right? You said you've been teaching English for 10 plus years. And obviously Steve, I read that, you were teaching in Niigata at a high school for a couple of years. And then you also taught at a tutoring school in Kitakyushu. So obviously you have a lot of experience teaching Japanese people, but this question is actually not specifically towards Japanese English learners, just people who are learning a foreign language. From your personal experiences, what are some common qualities, characteristic traits that you've seen with your students who have become really good English speakers? Who wants to start this one off? I guess we could go on.
I'll go first.
There we go, Steve.
Yeah,
Perfect.
So I just want to say, I really respect this quality because it is something that I completely lack. I am not a good learner of foreign languages because I don't have this skill, and that is fearlessness. The ability for students not to be afraid to make a mistake. And that's something that, to my shame, I could just never really get beyond when I was studying German or Russian or whatever language I take, because I'm so self-conscious about sounding incorrect. But I find that the students I work with that aren't afraid to make mistakes and put it out there and really try, they're the ones that eventually end up being the best.
Agreed.
Okay, let's go. Chris, do you want to go next then?
Sure. I think so. As a teacher for over 10 years, and now as a linguistics student, I'm going for my second master's degree for linguistics.
Nice.
I'm so excited. The thing that I think I have learned as a Spanish student and as an English teacher is that you have to treat it like a game. Going off of what Steve said for the fearlessness is that if you play English learning like it is a video game where you know that every mistake is just making you stronger and that you will get the chance to try again, I think some of that fear starts to go away. And so that allows you to communicate often, because we have to remember that the whole point of language is to communicate clearly. As long as you can communicate clearly, it doesn't matter if it's perfect. Becoming completely fluent is going to take decades. It's going to take years. And having the patience and the gentleness with yourself to have fun and to enjoy the process, that's key. Because if you're not enjoying the process, you're never gonna do it. So treating it like a game and having that, okay, I'm gonna do it, I can do it, to talk to other people and to produce and speak and create as many sentences and different language types with different kinds of people as possible, it's only going to help. And it takes time, but it will help you learn the most quickly as possible. So that's what I say.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and I think to add to what you said there, it's like a game with endless lives, right? Like you're never gonna die, right? You have like millions of coins that you keep putting back in the game because it just restarts over and over again. And there is no such thing as a game over in this game that we're playing in the language game. Right? Only if you quit. Yeah, only if you walk away from the game, right? There you go. All right. And last but not least, Danny, how about you?
I have a few points, and one is like maybe not as obvious, but I noticed many students who learn another language very well understand their own language very well first. Because it's like when you see your language not just as a means of speaking, but actually like building blocks, because every sentence has a structure, right? So it's like, okay, subject, verb, that's your most basic sentence. If you understand that in your own language, then you understand, okay, but in this other language, we build it another way. So that's one thing. I have a few points, so I'm going to try to talk faster.
Take your time.
They also know how to apply one rule to other appropriate situations. I have some students who, like, for example, in my pronunciation class, I'll tell them, okay, like the letter O in a single syllable will say ah in North American English, right? So some students will only apply that to the one word we were looking at, but then the students who know how to apply it, who know how to expand that knowledge will apply it to everything that fits. And then obviously there's always exceptions in English, which is very frustrating, but that's another thing. What else? The ones who are particularly good at speaking, don't rely on text, right? I have that problem when I learn another language. I rely a lot on the written word, but of course it's totally different when you have to talk. And that's why in other languages, I'm not as good at talking because I rely so much on written word. Another thing is they're not afraid to ask why. It's like, for example, if I correct something and then they ask why, I love it when they ask me that, because when you know why, sometimes it's also easier for you to remember. And okay, finally, they notice when a word is used maybe really similarly, but they know, wait a minute, how come sometimes this is used and that's used in other times? So students who are really, they pick up the nuance, right? So for example, one of my students was like, when do I, you know how sometimes you'll say a sentence and then in the next sentence, you can say it or that. So he was like, why is it that sometimes we use it and sometimes we use that? And then I had a lot of fun explaining that to him too, because sometimes it sounds weird if you're saying that when you're not actually pointing to something in particular. So I think those few things are what I've noticed in people who speak another language other than their own very well.
Yes, wow, you brought up a lot of excellent points here. But yes, you know, I think there's a lot that that I get, you know, actually, you know, let me just take a step back here and try to organize my thoughts. This is a question that I get asked a lot from a lot of my students is because I do actually run a language school here in Los Angeles, and the common question typically is, you know, what type of students excel, what type of students struggle with picking up the language. And it's always hard to just pick one characteristic, right? Because everybody is obviously different. And that's why I think it's really cool to be able to get all of your perspectives on it, because I don't think there is just, you know, one type of person in this world that that one type of characteristic that helps you become a good English speaker. And I think all the points that you brought up today were really good. All right.